Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, let me start by expressing my personal appreciation and that on behalf of the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, EBID. I'll tell you what that bank is. Some of you may not be aware of that bank. I want to thank the founder and the group CEO of Lelane Services, Dr. Mrs. Helen Hagan, and then the organizers of this program for inviting us to share a few thoughts with you on this very important occasion. Let me break protocol a little. It is not part of my speech, but I think that I want to honor somebody from our own perspective as a bank. And that is the founder and the group CEO of Lelane. Put hands together for this distinguished lady. She actually is not aware that I'm going to say this. But the Bible even says that give honor to those who deserve honor. I've known her for about 20-something years. And if some of you who know her pedigree, how she started Lelane, right at Sakumono. And now Lelane has saved many lives, not only in Ghana, but beyond. As an international financial institution where I work, we deal with specialized and high-profile HR entities in the sub-region, in all the 15 member countries of ECOWAS. And I'm glad to inform you that Lelane is part of our service providers. So that tells you the level of achievement that they have made. And so on this occasion, permit me to express my admiration to you and your husband and the entire team for the remarkable, impact you have made on humanity. Thank you very much. So ladies and gentlemen, colleague, keynote speakers, I've just seen Dr. Stella Ajenibuati. You are welcome. Let me start this keynote address with a retelling of one of the Shakespeare's love stories. This story is about the balcony scene. Some of you might have read it in the play Romeo and Juliet. Romeo appears in the scene to recite and paint one of the most memorable imageries ever told, believing that such professing of love would elicit Juliet's unconditional love. This is not different from what we gathered here and listening from far would normally do as HR professionals to attract talents. As we do sometimes, we love to tell new talents that we are the employer of choice to elicit the attention. So Romeo begins, "Lady, by yonder blessed moon, I vow that tips with silver all these fruit treetops." Romeo is vowing by the moon of his love to Juliet. What do you think Juliet would do in these circumstances? By the conventional wisdom, we will all expect Juliet to be so happy looking at the silver beauty of the moon. And what we all expect from our workforce. But alas, no. Juliet immediately shouts at Romeo, "Oh, swear not by the moon, that inconstant moon that monthly changes in a second orbit, lest that Allah proves likewise variable." The moon? You've got to be kidding, Juliet thought. The moon changes shape every night. You can't swear by something so unreliable. Basically, that was what Juliet was telling Romeo. She was not interested in love vowed by the moon. But why couldn't Romeo see this? Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, my HR practitioners, the world we are in today defies any stable rules or standards. Things are no longer that simple. What we promise and use as an employer of choice cars, yes pass, may no longer be attractive to the coming workforce. Years ago, HR practitioners were assured that their workforce would rush through traffic, come to the office, sit behind a desk, and work 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. If an employee joined the organization for the first time, they were expected to work for between 3 months to 6 months to be confirmed before they could take part of their vacation. Today, they come to work for the first time. After working for a month, they want days off. Unlike those when we could bully them. Now, any attempt to do that, and you are certain that you will not see them again. Infanti, a company advocating for everywhere workforce, studied over 4,500 office workers and about 1,600 IT professionals in more than 3 continents, and found a very disturbing statistics. 71% of the respondents indicated that they would choose to work from anywhere over a job promotion or increase in compensation. In that same survey, almost 9, that is about 87%, said they do not want to work from the office full time, with another 45% indicating that they'll be happy never to work at the office again. This notwithstanding, a study by Microsoft shows that many employers led by HR want employees to come to the office on full time, as if coming to office makes employees more productive. On the contrary, studies after COVID-19 has shown that employees working remotely or hybrid are more productive and better able to manage their mental health. The Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, CIPD, in a report in 2021, found that 41% of the employers surveyed said home or hybrid working had increased productivity and efficiency, up from 33% a year earlier. In 1985, two economists and university professors, Warren Bennis and Badnanus, in their book, quote, Leaders, the Strategies for Taking Charge, unquote, talk about the phenomena of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. 5 years later, in early 1990s, the U.S. Army War College, in trying to deal with the collapse of USSR, found itself in a world of VOCA, an acronym that became a buzzword for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. Colleagues, we are in a VOCA world now. The world we are in is changing like the moon. Today is a full bright. The next moment, part of the surface is dark. Another time, you cannot see it at all. That is how this world is. It is very volatile. The uncertainties are unbelievable. COVID-19 resurgence, Ukraine-Russia war, rising inflation, cedi depreciation, you name it. And all these, the explanations have become so complicated. On the same issue, there can be many explanations that at a point we find it difficult to know which one to believe or not. To make matters worse, things keep becoming ambiguous. It becomes very difficult to understand issues. That is the world we are in. And for us as HR professionals, mastering this vocal world and learning how to outsmart it and thrive it as a skill set we should have in abundance, for it will determine how we survive and deal with the future of work. Let me speak a little about the vocal world. The future of work, above all else, is flexible and ambiguous. The world has become too unpredictable to only be prepared for one possible future. Employees are increasingly demanding more flexibility around where, when, and how they work. Additionally, companies themselves are having to learn more to become flexible, agile, and resilient. VOCA, a trend and managerial acronym for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. It's a phenomenon in business environments that present roadblocks to most companies' service towards their objectives. In extreme cases, corporate continuity can be at stake. Some effects of VOCA include acts of terrorism, cybersecurity, threats, natural disasters, technological glitches, and many more. Let me attempt to explain the VUCA. The first issue I mentioned is volatility. The word volatile is from a Latin root, volare, meaning to fly, or creatures that fly. It also means evaporating rapidly. So when we say the world in which we are now is volatile, etymologically, it means this world is behaving like flying creatures, evaporating rapidly. We all know how difficult it is to catch flying things, not to talk about things that are evaporating rapidly. Years ago, HR professionals were assured of work for life. They talk about retention strategies. Today, you may need to talk about evaporating strategies, because as you are thinking of how to deal with the coming workforce, before you are aware, they are gone. You may want to check LinkedIn, which has now become Generation Z's preferred professional platform. According to some statistics, 40% of LinkedIn users reportedly change their employment status every 4 years. New studies featured in Fast Company indicates that millennials and Gen Z are currently proving to be the driving force behind the Great Resignation. These days, some of the Gen Z workforce have rich parents. They can therefore choose to stay at home, and their parents will look after them. Their world is volatile, and as HR, we need to know how to deal with this world. Number two, uncertainty. The word uncertain is from two words: un, which means not, and certain, which translates as assured, settled, resolved beyond doubt. When you join the two words, you have a situation of doubt, not fully confident, unsettled, dependent on chance. That is the world in which we live now. It is very difficult to predict. What worked for us as HR practitioners yesterday may therefore not work for us today. Number three, complexity. This world has become more complex than ever. The world originally meant to wave, braid, twine, intricate, not easily analyzed. The new workforce is complicated. Contrary to what we have been teaching our workforce on how useful teamwork is, what Helifayol referred to as esprit de corps, that is together in French, esprit de corps, that is a teamwork in English, as one of his 14 principles of management, the coming workforce prefer the opposite. They want their own space and they work for their own passion. They easily will leave if the job does not align with their purpose. They love self-manage. They are all, quote, do-it-yourself generation. If they need something, they search Google or YouTube. When given a choice between reading and watching, they will most likely choose watching. In the night, when we are asleep, that is when their world starts. Playing games, watching Netflix, and working across continents. They do not want us to follow them on any of their social media platforms. They are experts at smarting us. By the time you are about watching their messages, they are automatically deleted. Their space at computing is a super fast. March against us digitally, they will leave us behind. They laugh at our world, and we behave as if we understand them, but we don't. We are blind to their world. Should we be concerned? If only we want to be the ones to manage and lead them. Now hear this, ladies and gentlemen. Studies show that there are more than 2 billion people in Generation Z globally. They were born between 1997 and 2009 and represent about 30% of the total global population. They formed the first digital generation to grow up without any memory of a time before the internet. There is a prediction that by 2025, the Gen Z will make up about 27% of the workforce, and that number will continue to increase. Are we ready? The last issue I'll talk about, ambiguity. Now to the word ambiguity, it appears that the word itself was created to make it more ambiguous. The word ambiguity comes from two Latin words, ambi, which means both, and agere, which is also to drive. Literally, the word means both to drive. Imagine a word where two people have to drive a vehicle together. When one is trying to accelerate, the other would want to step on the brakes. But that is basically the world we are managing as HR professionals. You will never have a consensus, more so with the workforce about to enter the market, whose stock in trade is to ask why most questions are asked. Now, the future of work. Anytime the phrase future of work is mentioned, many of us think about remote and hybrid work. The phenomenon is, however, bigger. The future of work includes changes in how technological, generational, and social shift will influence how work will get done in coming decades. The future of work also deals with what styles of leadership and culture will be effective in organizations, how customers are to be served, how talents will be sourced and managed, what is required to retool and reskill current resourcing to match with new jobs, etc. Boston Consulting Group, BCG, is a consulting group in the US. Specifically, I think they are in Boston. In 2022, that is 2022, surveyed executives from about 350 companies. More than 1/3 of them in the C-suite across major industries and 47 countries. Together, these companies employ more than 6 million people. They surveyed asked for the perspective of leaders in these organizations about the importance of the dimensions of future of work and how these companies are progressing. BCG found that it is still early days in these companies on how prepared they are relative to the future of work. For each dimension, just about 20% or less think of themselves as leaders in their industry. One surprising finding from the survey is that companies are focusing more on office-based workers and less on what BCG called the desk workers, who make up more than 75% of the global workforce. These desk workers in factories, shops, hotels, restaurants, and hospitals, in most cases, are unable to work from home, unlike their office-based workers who are able to work from home. The insight from the study, which should be of interest to HR professionals, is that many of these deskless workers who work at the front lines during the COVID-19 may still be left out of any future of work benefits, including improvement in mental health, a key outcome of hybrid and remote working. Now let's look at the old workforce. According to McKinsey, the world of work faces epochal transition, and by 2030, as many as 375 million workers, representing about 14% of the global workforce, may need to change jobs due to digitization, automation, and advances in artificial intelligence, which are disrupting the world of work. The kinds of skills companies need are rapidly shifting, with significant implications for all skill sets. Earlier in time, the rate of change in skill set was not that significant. As such, old workers could retire and new entrants join the workforce. Now, we are not sure if such stable transitions will play out. The volatilities, uncertainties, complexities, and ambiguities we are observing in the post-COVID-19 recovery era would appear not to have patience for smooth transitions. Are my HR colleagues ready for this disruptive, technological, digital, generational shift? Are we prepared for the needed retraining and retooling? Do we have the tools to retrain, retool such huge number of staff? If not, what are the options? Are organizations having the patience for us? Are our cost-income ratios, which may be higher with the existing model, acceptable to our shareholders and investors? Is the HR of today capable of steering us through this transition? Your CEOs say addressing potential skills gaps related to automation are within their top 10 priority areas, according to the recent McKinsey report. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to end my keynote address by making very cogent 10 recommendations. 1, physician, heal yourself. For HR practice, physician, heal yourself. My first advice is to all of us as HR practitioners is that timeless counsel. And what I mean is that the goal is physician, heal yourself. Ask yourself if you yourself understand the changes that are disrupting the way work is done in recent time. Do you understand the emerging VUCA world in the workplace? If not, be the first to read to or to rescue yourself. Number 2, shift the specialist mindset. Shift it. The specialist mindset. I've seen many HR professionals who will tell you all they want to do is to be in HR. If you recall, when I was appointed a judge in 1996, we used to have we used to call them personnel. I don't know what that is. If personnel. At the time I was appointed a judge in Ghana here in 1996, I was asked to go, but I have to go and see the personnel manager. That word is now totally missing. In the VUCA world, HR people must talk in their own business people. Like the business people. The best way to influence organization is to be knowledgeable in the business. I would recommend HR professionals to first be business people. Number 3, embrace digital. Embrace digital. If you are not on all the social media platforms, ensure that by the close of today, you sign on to all of them, including Snapchat, LinkedIn, Instagram, and so forth and so forth. The next point, be present in the informal sector. Be present in the informal sector. A bigger number of the coming workforce will be in the informal sector, where HR has been missing for many years. Your name is HR managers, not HR managers for the formal sector. Look for ways to make your expertise felt in the informal sector. They need you. The next point, listen to them more. Listen to them more. The best way to understand the coming workforce is to listen to them more. Engage them. The next point, last, offer them internships or mentorship to prepare them. And here I want to commend Dr. Mrs. Hagen again for the mentorship programs and all over the world. For your information, he's known not only in Ghana, but beyond the shores of Ghana. I'm speaking as an international public servant. He's known all over. And because of mentorship, and that is what we need. To understand the coming workforce, let us offer them internships. Let it not be a favor. Let there be a structure that allows the coming workforce spend time in our organizations. Elsewhere, they have co-ops which allow students to learn and work at the same time. We need to have that for our coming workforce. That way, by the time they are ready to work, they are already equipped. In conclusion, colleagues and friends, the future of work, although destructive, is also exciting. For those of us here, it provides us with a real opportunity to guide our children to how work will be done in the coming years. We have the experience and expertise to make this transition successful. I'm sure one day, posterity will look back at us and be kind to us for doing such a beautiful and great job in a world that was full of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. I know we are very capable. And for that, I want to say a big thank you. God bless us all. Thank you very much.